This is Channel 253.
Move to Tacoma! On this episode of Move to Tacoma.
I really felt like downtown was like looking, or where people were searching for like a really nice coffee cafe that was serving like a whole experience, like food, coffee, atmosphere, just like, and there's a lot of great businesses around Tacoma, so nothing against them, but that's just what I felt like was like, oh, it'd be cool if we could do that. I want to bring that to the people.
Right on Pacific Avenue.
Yeah.
Channel 253 is member supported. I'm producer Doug Mackey, and I hope you will show your support by going to channel253.com/membership and join. Thank you. We're back.
I'm Marguerite, and I want you to move to Tacoma.
Move to Tacoma, move to Tacoma, move to Tacoma.
You'll like it.
Move to Tacoma, move to Tacoma, move to Tacoma.com.
Hi, I'm Marguerite, and this is Move to Tacoma, and we're here today with Kevin Lee from Third Space. Hello, Kevin.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
I'm so glad you were able to come.
Yeah, no, this is exciting.
Well, the reason I first found you, like I think most people found you on Instagram. I was scrolling through, and there you were explaining why a cup of coffee costs like $6.50. And you were breaking down like what goes into it. And I was like, Third Space, wait, is there a new coffee shop? Like, I haven't heard of this coffee shop. And I was like, oh, crap. I always hate it when I get, like, caught by surprise. And I go and look, I'm like, oh, no, he's not even open. And then I go and look at your profile, and you are not open yet, but you're basically, like, telling the story of how to open a coffee shop, what goes into it, what are all the steps. And I have no intention, full respect, but no intention in my life of ever opening a coffee shop.
No, yeah. It's a good idea.
Voyeuristically so interested. Like, I've always wondered how it all works. And so I was hoping today that we could talk about some of that stuff.
Yeah, I would love to. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, before we get into all that, I'd love to know when you moved to Tacoma and why.
So I've been in the greater Tacoma area back in 2005.
Okay.
Yeah, 2005. My family, well, originally I was born in New York.
Okay.
In Flushing, Queens area. My parents, they're immigrants, so my parents came from Korea to New York. That was the first place they went to. And so they lived there for 25, 30 years. And they were just sick of the city. We had some family who was already living out in the Seattle area. And at that time, Seattle was like no one knew anything about what was in Seattle. Like nobody knew. It was like just this corner of the country. No idea I never even really knew anything about Seattle. So we visited our family like 1 week, and it was just so green, so much nature. And for my parents, a big part of it was the living costs compared to like New York City at the time. To Seattle's living cost was much, much cheaper than it is now.
And what year was this that your family moved from New York to?
2005.
Okay.
2005, around there. And so then they were just sick of the city life. They wanted to kind of get out. And it was either here or LA. LA seemed a little bit too just hectic.
Let the record show people move here to get away from the city life.
Yeah. And so we came here. We moved here. And obviously at that age, I was like middle school. And so I was just following my parents. Right. And so we came out here and been out here since then.
Awesome. And what neighborhood do you live in right now?
So I live in Federal Way, but it's like kind of the border of Northeast Tacoma. So I just take right down the hill into the port of Tacoma and make my way around.
That's a nice drive to come into town.
No traffic ever. It's great.
That's awesome.
It's kind of nice.
Okay, so what do you like about living over there? I mean, I have sold exactly one house in Federal Way in my entire life. I really stayed in Tacoma. And I know there's the Twin Lake Golf Club. There's a golf course in Moore Point. I know about the Barnes & Noble, like the mall. Yeah. Like, what is there in Federal Way? Like, what do you like about it there?
You know what? There's not much. I'll be honest. There's not much.
Come to Tacoma.
I actually probably spend more time in Tacoma than I do in Federal Way. And I'm glad I'm located in an area where I can get to Tacoma pretty quickly.
Right.
But Federal Way, there's a lot of good Korean food, I would say.
Okay.
I'm Korean, so...
You have a Korean spa there, too, right?
I haven't been there in a long time, though. Yeah, I didn't have a great experience there a long time ago. I was really young.
Okay.
I didn't follow some rules. I got in trouble.
I hear you really have to follow the rules in
I guess
places.
You're not supposed to wear shorts into the jacuzzi area.
Naked only. Naked only at the Korean
And at the
spa.
time, I was like, I think I went with some buddies. We were like in high school, and we were just not ready for that. So we were like, oh, we got to take all of our clothes off in front of all these people right now. And
I love that we're getting right into it today.
Yeah, and so so I haven't gone back since then, but there is one there. I haven't been there in a long time, but mostly Korean food. That's really all there is.
Where's your favorite place to go for Korean food in Federal Way?
In Federal Way, that's tough. There's a couple of good places. I like to go to this place called it's called Chanko, which means garage.
Okay.
But it's this really hole in the wall. It's like in this auto body shop little plaza right on Pack Highway.
Okay.
And it's like I don't know if they even speak English there, the workers.
What do you order?
There's this pork neck soup that you can order. It's like this big pot. They put it on like a little burner. They put it on the table. It's a big old pot with like perilla leaves and pork neck bones and meat and vegetables, and they give you a bunch of side dishes and rice and you kind of cook it up right on the spot at the table.
All right, and so it's like a hot pot in a garage on Pack Ave.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a good recommendation. This is not one I've heard before.
It tastes. Why I like it is because my mom's a great cook too, and it just tastes like your mom's kitchen cooking. It just tastes like home cooking. So
that's awesome.
It's really good. It's really good.
All right, so I'm very curious. How did you go into the I want to open a coffee shop path in life? Like, how does that even happen? I know you have a professional background in food, so how did that all start?
Well, it kind of happened all of a sudden. It wasn't like a lifelong dream of I had this romanticize having my own coffee shop because when my parents first moved here from New York at the time, their professions that they had in New York didn't really translate to here.
Got it.
And so my parents were thinking about what other business to do. So my mom, she kind of dabbled into like working for John L. Scott, like real estate a little bit. And my dad was kind of doing some jobs and here and there. But one thing that people were saying, that does well in Seattle or Washington when we first moved here was like, you should do a drive-through coffee stand. Because that's not a thing. Like, that's not a thing in the East Coast.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know now, but like, I haven't really seen that kind of drive-through coffee culture.
Because you have Dunkin' Donuts and you don't need it.
Yeah. And then it's just like, it's just something it's so new to me. I've never seen drive-through coffee stands. So we opened one, and now it's been changed. Right now there's the Sandbar Grill on the Port of Tacoma. That's like this bar. Right next to it, there's a little tiny coffee stand, and it's gone through multiple owners and companies. But back when we first moved here, we got that.
Awesome.
My parents got that, and at that time we had no experience in coffee. Like, my parents had no idea anything about coffee, about espresso machines, nothing.
Wow.
They just learned from somebody. They basically took over a previous owner. They kind of taught them a little.
Yeah.
And so we opened that, and then we opened another one in Renton as well, because that one was doing pretty well. And then there was another open lot in Renton. So I would follow my mom because she would have to make cash runs at night. And so I remember, and I had just got my driver's permit, so I was like so into driving. And so she was like, I know now she's just not even thinking about it. She was just using me. She was like, oh, you want to practice driving? And then I would drive with her all the way to Renton, kind of like where the Boeing airport is over there. And had a little coffee stand. So we would go do cash runs. And that was kind of my first, I guess, exposure to the coffee business. Like I would go in and stock up milk and help do cash runs, and we would put in product and things like that. And then eventually those just kind of got tiring. It was like, a lot of back and forth and employee turnover. It was just, because the whole idea of that business was to be hands off. Like, you can kind of let it run with employees. But, unfortunately, a lot of, people steal, they take cash, they do just shady things. And so it just wasn't worth it. So we sold the one in Renton, and we sold the one in Port of Tacoma area over there. And there was a spot over on 11th and Broadway in downtown Tacoma that opened up that what used to be like this sandwich shop thing. And the owner really wanted to get out of it, was willing to give it to us for really, really cheap. I think it was like, I don't even know, maybe like $20,000, maybe $15,000. I don't know. It was really cheap. And so we took that over, and my parents just worked full time there. We did like sandwiches, coffee, blended coffee drinks.
What was it called?
It was called Simply Espresso.
Was it like in the lobby of?
Yes, so
I have been there.
Yes,
I have been there.
It used to be the Columbia Bank building.
Yeah.
And it was on the bottom floor but you could enter through the sidewalk, but it was also like in the technically the lobby area.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was us. And so I remember in the summer times I would go there in high school. I'll go in the summer to help out. And my parents worked so hard there, they were, and at the time it was like, for them, they're just trying to make a living.
Right.
So it was not like this curated coffee shop aesthetic vibe. It was like, we were selling like bulgogi bowls and sandwiches and coffee and like random stuff, like fried rice. I remember like was a popular item there, and it was like, even though our name was Simply Espresso and Subs, like we were.
It was not so simple.
Yeah, people would come for fried rice. Like that was like, so it was just a really random weird spot where but it was like a really cool thing because that was the first exposure I had to Downtown Tacoma. Then that was back in like probably 2008, something like that. And like having regulars, that was the first experience. I remember we would have customers who would work in the building and things like that. And so we did that for a while, and then we did a couple other family businesses, and I kind of got tired. I went to culinary school because I loved cooking in high school. I discovered the Food Network. I remember watching just like Alton Brown and Emeril Lagasse and all those people, and watching like Iron Chef, things like that. And I loved cooking, and I would cook at home. And I hated studying. I wasn't really like a big school person. Like I would get by, I would get decent grades, and it wasn't like I was failing classes or anything, but I just didn't really enjoy like mathematics and science.
Right.
And I actually gravitated more towards like English and film study and like literature and stuff like that. And so I think that's why naturally, creatively, cooking seemed cool. It was just like, you just make stuff with your hands and you can explore and experiment.
Where did you go to cooking school?
So I went to the Renton Technical College, RTC, because like I thought I was going to go to like Seattle Art Institute. And then I looked at the tuition price.
It's intense.
It was like $30,000 a year.
It's hard to get the ROI on that one.
Yeah, granted, it was like really nice facilities, but at the time, my family, we didn't have the means to spend $30,000. And it's not only that, it was like for culinary school, and nothing wrong with that, but it was just, my immigrant parents, they're not like, they want you to like go do medical, like go do accounting, go do something like safe. That's what they want. Yeah. And so when I told them I wanted to go to culinary school, they were like, okay, well, like how much is it? $30,000 a year. And they're like, maybe we'll look for a different alternative. So they were never against it. Yeah. They weren't like, no, you should do something else. They supported it, but they were like, we need a more realistic.
What was the program at RTC like?
So it was, it's an AA program there. It's associates.
So a couple years.
So about a year, a little over a year and a half.
Okay.
So not too bad. But it's a great program there.
What do you learn?
So you start with the basics, knife skills, history of French. A lot of it is French cooking methods.
Okay.
So you
how to chop an onion properly.
Yeah, knife skills. You do a whole class on that. Then you move into soups. You move into stocks. You move into proteins. Then you learn about like grilling and broiling and braising. So all these different cooking methods. It's like its own little section. Every quarter you have a list. And then there was a student / it was open to the public actually. There was like a restaurant in the main building of the campus that basically your last 2 quarters you were serving you're working in a real restaurant.
Nice.
So you would make specials and dishes, and real people could come in and order it, and you would cook for them, and it's kind of how you would end the program.
So what's the biggest thing you learned in school?
The biggest thing, it's weird now because this was before YouTube, social media.
Right.
And so now I feel like you can learn a lot of it on your own now. But I do think the valuable thing about culinary school is you really learn about the industry. You learn about what it takes to be, a line cook, a sous chef, a head chef, and what kind of, you realize like little details are what separates restaurants from each other. It's because a lot of restaurants are great, but it's those little things that separate good restaurants from great restaurants. And it's usually not really necessarily like a specific, their menu. It's usually like how they prepare, flavors, presentation, cleanliness, customer service. It's like little things. So you kind of learn that as well, which is more valuable. Because I feel like, nice skills and things, it is nice to have a hands-on person. So I think that's kind of a good thing. But I think you're just learning about the industry. Because it's hard to get that. It's like, my brother, he does videography. And one of his things he wants to do is go to film school because, there's certain things that you can only really get into if you're working with somebody who's a professional and teaches.
You don't have to make every mistake yourself.
Exactly. So I think that's the value of culinary school is you really save a lot of time and energy and like not making those little errors and mistakes because you have someone there who's teaching. So
what happened between graduating from school and now? Like what has your general experience been?
So I graduated school and Actually, I didn't even graduate. I graduated culinary school, and I thought I was gonna go get a bachelor's, and then I decided my parents were like, "Well, we do need some help with the family business stuff. Do you want to take a more ownership role in that instead of your choice?" They're like, because for me, but thinking back now, I'm thinking like, man, maybe I should have finished school. But at the time, I just want to get out of school. I said, I just did not like school. And then culinary was cool. But then after culinary school, I had to go to like hospitality, business management, doing all these prereqs. And it was more like real just college classes.
So instead of going that route, you just went practical.
I was like, you know what?
And just started working
Yeah,
with your
just started
parents.
working.
Yeah.
And helping them and then taking more ownership role. And I did that for about 6-7 years. And then I kind of decided that I wanted to explore, a bigger scope of work. Because at the time we only had like few employees, and it was it's a mom and pop shop. It's a smaller business, so
literally your mom and pop.
Yeah, exactly. And we had a couple employees, but it's like you're just kind of doing everything on your own. When it comes to one thing people don't realize about these smaller mom and pop shops, they don't have the money to get food deliveries. They can't go, they can't work with like Cisco and all these other, vendors who give them truckloads of deliveries. Like that's all money and that's a lot. So they have to go out and buy the supplies themselves. And a lot of times what we would do is we would work a whole shift. And then after work, we would have to go to Business Costco, or we would have to go to Restaurant Depot to go buy supplies for the next day or the next couple days.
Yeah.
So it's a little different from mom and pops. People don't realize it's a lot of.
So the idea for you was, I want to go work somewhere where everything is kind of done and see how that kind of an operation runs.
Exactly. See how it feels to work for like a bigger company is what I want to experience.
And what was it like?
So I ended up applying to different places, and Beecher's Cheese, they called me for a managerial role at the airport.
Oh, yeah, of course. We've all been to the C concourse, right?
Yeah, C concourse, which is sadly not there anymore because of construction. But so I got hired there in a managerial role, first as an assistant manager. But that store was a great. Well, actually, I applied for a place called Pasta & Co. first. And I don't know if you've been there. It's in Bellevue. It's like this kind of, that was that company's first business, was Pasta & Co. actually. And it's kind of like a mini Whole Foods. It's like a deli case, freezer section, like local wines and stuff are all around. And I applied for that job, and then they were like, well, you know what? But that was for a managerial, like the lead manager role. And we did an interview, and they were like, well, you know what? Like based off your experience I know it's not a lead manager, it's an assistant, but we have an opening at the SeaTac airport location for beachers, which you didn't apply for, but we think your skill set would be better for that. So I said, okay, well, I said, well, if you pay me the same as you're going to pay me for the managerial role at Pasta & Co., I'll go there. They agreed. So I went there, and but in a weird way, it worked out because that's what I wanted. That I didn't know it.
Well, and the logistics at the airport are like a whole nother layer of weird logistics, right?
Like we were doing this was pre-COVID.
Right.
So we were doing $32,000 in sales a day. And it was just people there every day. We had a staff of 50 employees. And so it was what I wanted. We had a big team, lots of revenue, lots of different vendors, lots of different, financial things you had to be keeping track of. So I did that for a couple of years. Well, I was there for a couple of years, and then COVID hit, and the airport got just killed by COVID. And so I was furloughed for a couple of months, but then I got hired. I came back, and it was really slow for still another maybe 9 months to a year after COVID kind of opened back up. But then we eventually got back to it, but we ended up opening a bar concept next door, a Beacher's bar. So that was kind of a new thing I learned about how to open, liquor license and all that stuff, and working with the Washington Liquor and Cannabis Board. And then we did that. I did that for about 5 years. And then, like I said, the airport had to close. Sadly, they're doing, they're building up in the airport because they can't build out. There's no space.
Right.
So they're building up. And so they were like, we have to destroy this whole concourse. So we have to close. We had no choice. And so I kind of had to choose either I'm going to stay at Beachers for another 5 months and then kind of look for a job. Or they said, well, we're opening a new concept. We need someone to open this new concept at Overlake Hospital in Bellevue. And at the time, we also had a location in the Bellevue Square Mall. So there's a Beachers there. We're opening a new one at Overlake just a mile away. We need a manager for both. Would you be willing to go over there and run those stores? And so at the time, I needed a job.
Right.
I had no other choice. I was like, yeah, I guess. And the commute was terrible, but I knew it was going to be terrible. Well, I didn't know it was going to be that bad, but I knew it would be kind of bad. So I worked there for about 7-8 months. Yeah, and then I couldn't do it anymore. I was driving about 3 hours a day. Hour and a half each way. Right. Terrible.
It's not the dream.
No. Yeah. And then so I decided to quit because I realized nothing I was getting out of it other than a paycheck. I wasn't enjoying it. And that company, Beachers, is great. It's a great company. I loved my team. I loved my bosses there. But just the job itself had run its course.
So how did you get to the point of Bleachers to, I want to open a coffee shop and I want to open a coffee shop right here in Tacoma?
So I was job searching after I quit Beachers. Didn't really find anything. And I was like, you know what? I was just, at the time I had a lot of free time. So I was going to all these coffee shops. I was going to all these restaurants. And I thought, you know what? Instead of me becoming, applying for another manager position for someone else's restaurant or cafe, I was like, what if I do it myself? Because I know, my parents, we had that background with my family business. Right. I know the bigger scope with Beachers, that I had that experience. I have culinary school experience. Right. It was kind of felt, almost, it just all of a sudden just clicked. It was like, oh, maybe I should just do my own thing. And so, because I didn't want to work for someone else. Yeah. And
all right. Well, on that note, Doug has given me the look. We got to go to break. Okay. But now we got to figure out how a lot of people have that thought. How do you actually do it? So we'll be right back.
Okay.
This is Channel 253 co-founder Eric Hanberg thinking back to 2017 and the start of the first Trump administration, Adult Civics Happy Hour, Citizen Tacoma. All of these things came in many ways to a response to what was happening at the national level. We wanted to focus local, and we are still here for another Trump administration.
It's happening again.
It is happening again, but we're still here. We appreciate that you are still here, listening, engaging with the issues that you care about in your local community.
We renew our interest in our goal and our mission, and we hope that you will renew your membership as we move forward. And if you're not a member yet, please go to channel253.com/membership and join for $4 a month or $40 a year.
We truly appreciate the support of all of you who have given, and we hope to welcome more of you in the new year that can help keep independent media alive that is focused on Tacoma and our community. Thank you.
Move to Tacoma!
Okay.
And we are back. When we left off, you were talking about how you were going to coffee shops in Tacoma and you were looking for a job and you were like, what if I owned the coffee shop?
Yeah. So I remember we had a customer at our old family business. Her name was Shannon, and she worked for property management. And so I remembered her. My parents remembered her, and they were like, you know what? You should reach out to Shannon. Maybe she knows something. And so I said, okay. So I reached out to Shannon. I said, hey, I have this crazy idea. I think I want to maybe come back to downtown Tacoma and open up my own cafe or coffee shop. And she said, you know what? We actually have a spot in our own building.
Whoa.
That's available right now.
And which building was that?
And it was in the Provident building. So it's right on Pacific in between 9th and 10th. This big brick building.
Okay. Is that the one that Blitz is in?
It used to, yes.
Yes,
Blitz
okay.
floors, yes. It used to be a pita pit.
Yes.
And I remember the pita pit. And
You're going to be in the spot where the pita
Yes,
pit.
yes,
Okay,
yeah.
the former pita pit location.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I knew exactly where it was, but I didn't know Shannon's property management was in that building.
Yeah.
And so I said, yeah. She said, I can show you the space. We can meet. I was like, okay. So I got there and I was like, oh, this is the pita pit or the old pita pit. Had no idea. And then, so we toured the space and had the potential. It had, like a hood. It had decent seating. It was a lot bigger than I actually was looking for. As far as square footage, it was like 1,600 square feet. It's
big.
And it still had an office and a little pantry area. And it had already had a walk-in fridge and freezer. And
I think a lot of people don't understand, like when you open a coffee shop, like you can't just pick any space and then just drop a coffee machine into it, right? Like there's a lot of infrastructure that has to be in place.
Yeah.
So if you find a place that's already ready to go, that's ideal, right?
Yeah, and I kind of learned that the hard way too, because it did have the infrastructure for like a sandwich shop.
Oh.
But there was no plumbing for an espresso machine.
I didn't even know espresso machines have plumbing.
Yeah. You need a whole plumbing system. You need all these backflow valves, and you need grease traps, and you need to have vent-in grease traps and all these things. And I had no idea. I just saw a 3-compartment sink, and I saw a walk-in fridge.
We're good to go.
I saw a hood, and I was like, oh man, there's so much potential here.
Just need a couch and a coffee shop.
I was like, we'll just put the espresso machine right here. Should be fine. We'll just plumb it. It should be fine. Not knowing the whole grease trap process. Or
you are not the first guest on this podcast to mention the traumas of the grease trap.
No, and it wasn't necessarily traumatic, but I just didn't know. I didn't know, and so I just kind of toured the space, being very simple-minded of like, oh, it might work.
Perfect.
So I reached out to Shannon. I said, hey, I'm interested. She's like, okay, well, let me set you up with the landlord and talk to him. So I met the landlord in the space, and his name is Adam. Super cool guy, really down to earth. I was expecting to be, most landlords I've kind of dealt with or seen, it's mostly they're like suit and tie, but very corporate. But Adam was just very down to earth, very cool. And we got to talking. We had a great conversation. And, after a couple of weeks we discussed, and we kind of drafted up a letter of intent. Like, hey, so I think I'm interested. And because the entry was pretty reasonable as far as me getting in there, because I don't have all the, I'm bootstrapping everything.
Well, I guess that's my question, because I don't know if this is I know we could talk for hours about all the financial details of how to start a business, but what's really involved? How much money did you, you don't have to tell me the number, but is it a lot of money that you have to have, or do you go to the bank and you show them your credit and they're like, oh no, we'll give you a loan? How does that all work? Yeah. So it depends on a lot of factors. I think, you do need to, it's good to have some savings. There's multiple routes. You can have some savings and kind of try to nickel and dime it. Or you can get investors if you have, people who are really bought into your idea. You can do Kickstarter programs where if you just kind of get people to fund it. I think we see that a lot in
town.
town.
Yeah. And it's so it's kind of, you go multiple routes you can do. For me, my personal route, loan was kind of just off the table because I quit my job.
Right.
I wasn't
How'd you
working.
do that?
I had no income.
Yeah.
And so I had some savings that I had. That it's not a lot, but it was enough to like. I'm like, okay, if I can get it within this amount, I could probably make it work. Kind of situation. So that's kind of how it, so that financially it's really different for everybody.
Right.
It really depends on your situation.
So you're on the road to opening the coffee shop. You like have your vision. When does social media kind of start? When do you start telling the story online? Like, how did you know to do that?
Yeah. So the first 2 months, we actually signed the lease back in October.
Okay.
And even that was a struggle because we actually had the letter of intent drafted. And then a week later, the landlord was like, actually, I got more offers.
Oh.
And I need to look into them.
Multiple offers on the pita pit.
Yeah, he was like, it's not, I like your idea, but it's just, I have to do right by my investors and I have to look into these other options. And I was like, so I thought, okay, I'm not going to get it.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't giving him a ton of money.
Right.
I actually asked for money. I said, I need help with the paint.
Yeah.
I need help with this. I need help with repairs. Like I was actually asking him for money. And all these other offers were actually willing to pay him and said, we'll take care of the repairs. We'll take care of renovations.
Right.
And so I thought because I asked him, I said, do you mind if I ask what they're offering? Maybe I can match. And once he told me, I was like, oh no, I can't.
Never mind.
Yeah, never mind. I can't match that. So I actually thought it was not going to happen. So I kind of had that set in my mind. I actually started looking at other locations around downtown. And even why I settled on downtown was because, like I said, we had been there in the past.
Right.
I really felt like downtown was like looking, or where people were searching for like a really nice coffee cafe that was serving like a whole experience, like food, coffee, atmosphere, just like, and there's a lot of great businesses around Tacoma, so nothing against them, but that's just what I felt like was like, oh, it'd be cool if we could do that. I wanted to bring that to the people.
Right on Pacific Avenue.
Yeah, yeah. So I was looking at other places in downtown, and but then about a month later, after back and forth, so hey, you have any updates? What's going on with the other offers? To my surprise, Adam was like, "We're gonna go with you."
That's awesome.
And I asked, and I think what might have stirred him was maybe our idea. And what I told him was, "Hey, I can't offer you all the money that people else are offering you, but I said, I'll tell you one thing: no one is gonna work harder than me to make this space work. I'm gonna be there every day. I'm gonna be present. I'm gonna be hands-on. And so if that matters to you, that's what I can offer." And I'm thinking maybe that's what maybe stirred him. And so to my surprise, he gave us the opportunity. He believed in us. And so we signed the lease. And then from there, social media was kind of an afterthought. It was like the first 2 months, I was just like trying to figure things out.
That's wild because you get a lot of views for a coffee shop that's not even open yet.
Yeah.
You get a lot of traction.
Well, I think
it was not on purpose?
No.
I thought like, oh, maybe you like have a background in marketing or something.
No background in marketing. I did social media during COVID a little bit of like a food channel of like TikTok of me making food at home of like step-by-step process of how to make dishes and things like that.
So when you made the first few posts about opening the coffee shop, like how did you know that it was like hitting? Like what was the first post that kind of blew up for you?
It wasn't hitting until that video that you had mentioned.
Oh, really? That was the one?
Yeah, that was the one that went really viral, the first one. Where it got
I was right on time.
Yeah, like 400,000 views.
And tell us what you explained in that video. Like what was it about that video that you think really connected with people?
Well, so the whole point of that video, the inspiration for why I made it was I want my customers, when we eventually open, I thought it would be good for them to understand, hey, like this is what goes into our coffee, like when we make it. So the whole point, but I wasn't open yet. So
we all know it used to cost $3.50 for a latte, and now it costs $6 or $7.
Exactly.
Why is that?
And so my whole idea was like, I think it would be easier for people to come into the space if they understood why we were selling the price that we were. That was inspiration. It was like mainly for our coffee shop.
So why does a latte cost $6.50?
Right. So it was like, I was like, okay, so let me break down the milk and the coffee and the packaging prices and things. And I just made it like to just give people a better idea. And I think that just really blew up because I realized, like all these other small businesses also appreciated it. They wanted like, yes, like people need to know this.
Yeah, and we want to know.
Because and a lot of customers were like, we didn't know. Like you have to break it down to even like, cup costs and milk costs. They just kind of see the final price.
Yeah, and your light bill and your commercial internet.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was inspiration. It was really just like, hey, it would be kind of cool if our customers knew about this.
Yeah.
And then it turned into this like platform for businesses to speak their mind, but also customers to be like, we didn't know, or actually that makes sense, or thank you for this, or it's just, inform. And the whole point of the video wasn't to make it like, hey, boohoo for all these.
Right.
It was just like, hey, this is the reality.
Well, and I think all of us on the internet, we're all a little voyeuristic, right? We all just kind of want to be in other people's businesses, like knowing what is going on, like how does that work? And I think it's just fascinating to watch you and explaining, like as you're opening up, like, this thing happened or that thing happened, and this is how this works. And for anybody who's feeling like you, like, I'd love to open a coffee shop someday or some other kind of business, to be able to watch you and learn alongside you, I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people just like dollar signs. Like people like to see money signs on the screen.
We're nosy.
Seeing how much things cost.
We're nosy.
So so that one really drew in a ton of follows and things like that. And so that was kind of what kickstarted a lot of our growth on our social media.
Yeah. We're recording this at the end of February. So by the time this comes out, you will hopefully be open. Right now, when is it that you're aiming to be open?
Well, we're looking to open in the beginning of March.
Okay.
So that's kind of our goal right now.
And what's the experience that you're hoping to create? Like I did a post about locally owned coffee shops in Tacoma last year, and I don't even think I realized quite how many there are in downtown Tacoma all around. I was like, oh my gosh, this list just gets longer and longer. And then everybody's commenting, you forgot this one, you forgot that one, right?
Yeah.
So how are you, what is the specific need you're going to fill with Third Space that may not be being filled right now?
Yeah, so with our space, we just want it to be a very inclusive, inviting space. So I feel like it's going to be for, if you're just the office worker who has a 30-minute lunch and you just want something quick, grab and go, you can come in for that. But it's also going to be an environment where if you want to chat with a friend over a coffee, we'll have spaces for that. Or if you want to just study, on your laptop or work from home technically, but work at our coffee shop or cafe, you can do that. So it's not specific to like, for this certain type of customer. It's just for everyone. It's going to be a very inviting, cozy space. So we didn't want to make it feel too fancy and minimal. I think that's kind of a trendy concept of being very minimal. And very,
I feel like those chairs are never comfortable when it's too minimal.
Yeah, so minimal was not we wanted it to be kind of funky, a little retro with a little modern twist on it. And so like our branding is kind of like that way. It's very fun, inviting, but it's still a little modern. But yeah, that's what we want. But we want to create a space where, maybe you're drinking coffee, but then you get hungry. We're like the one-stop shop. Like, we don't have to, okay, well, they don't, let's get coffee here, but get food here. Right. It's like, when you're studying or you're working, it's nice to be all in one place, so that's kind of what we're doing.
So like speed round, like what will be available? You're gonna have all the different like lattes and all that kind of stuff, but also pastries and food. Like what kind of food?
Yeah, so we're gonna have, we're making biscuits in the morning. It's kind of like our signature thing in the morning.
My favorite food is a biscuit.
Yeah. So we're gonna make our biscuits in the morning, fresh. We'll sell those by itself, but we'll also make breakfast sandwiches.
Nice.
Out of that with our own twist. We'll have some classics, like a bacon, egg, and cheese, but we'll have our own twists on things. And then in the mornings, we'll have mostly breakfast sandwiches, biscuits, and then local pastries. So we're in talks with local Tacoma bakers and getting their pastries and cookies, and we're looking into gluten-free options. Because our menu is going to be all of our products and items. We're trying to keep it not just Seattle or Washington. We're trying to keep it Tacoma. That's kind of what we're going for too. It's our big pillar.
We do respond to that very well. It's a good idea.
No, one of our big pillars is community. And, I feel like Tacoma does a lot of cool things.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of passionate people, creative people in Tacoma who are just doing their thing. And so instead of, getting a roaster or a baker from Seattle,
right,
it's like, well, can I find one around Tacoma?
Did you find one?
And we did. Yeah, we did. So
who's your roaster?
So we're using a roaster called Naomi Joe.
Oh, yes,
run by
course.
Kyle over. Yeah, they're.
I have kind of a famously indifferent palate, but I know that the coffee snobby people like Naomi Joe. Like, I think that
it's a very different experience for sure. It's not for everyone.
Okay.
But like I said, we want to be inviting and inclusive. So we're actually have a meeting lined up. So we're going to talk about a roast where they can make it a little bit more traditional.
Okay.
For one of our offerings, and then we'll also have kind of a funkier experimental espresso
Very cool.
offering. So
something for everyone.
Yeah, so we're gonna, that's kind of the cool thing about working local is that they're small batch and we can really talk about things. Whereas, sometimes you go with these bigger, more like nationwide roasters, like you don't have any say in what here are options. This is what you're gonna order.
Yeah.
But with people like Naomi Joe, that was the whole thing about it is like, oh wow, like it's cool to work with Tacoma businesses because we can collaborate.
Amazing.
So we're going to go with them for coffee, and we're talking with some other bakers for pastries and things and cookies and cakes. We're going to do cakes by the slice. That'll be kind of a cool offering.
Very cool.
And then for when we switch over to lunch, it's going to be mainly, kind of like sandwiches and salads. And part of it is whatever we feel like making.
Yeah.
So like, we're going to maybe some weeks you might walk in, we're going to have pasta as a special. And some weeks you might have soups. We might have random like meatball sub. Like it's not going to be on the menu, but like for a special, we'll just make a meatball sub. So just really, what we want people to feel is when you come in for food, no matter what you order, you're like, oh, it's going to be good.
Awesome.
Yeah, we want people to be confident in what they're going to get.
So what is your big wish for Third Space as you open up in Tacoma? Like, what is your big goal?
Our big goal is just to serve the community. Honestly, that's our big goal. We want people to feel like ownership in Third Space. We want people to feel pride of, hey, there's this. Let me take you to my favorite coffee, or let me take you to this one place that makes this amazing sandwich that I love. Or, when they get family or friends who visit from out of town, oh, let me take you to this one place that I love going to. And so we want people to feel, and that's part of why the background of the socials was the vision too.
Your socials are very inviting.
Yeah, we want people to feel like they are a part of Third Space. Like it's they're not just a customer who comes in and buys something. Like we want them to feel ownership and pride that, yeah, this is in Tacoma. We love this place. We want to support them because, they just love it. That's kind of what we want people to feel because they feel they have been there since the beginning.
Amazing.
And so that's kind of what our socials is. We're showing transparency and people to see everything we've done from the beginning. So once they walk in, they know what it's like. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. And good luck with your opening.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
If you like this podcast, check out movetotacoma.com. Movetotacoma.com is a neighborhood guide, blog, and podcast to help people in Tacoma, Pierce County, and beyond find their place in the city of destiny. More information at movetotacoma.com. Move to Tacoma is part of the Channel 253 podcast network. Check out these other shows: Grit and Grain, Nerd Farmer, Interchangeable White Ladies, What Say You, Citizen Tacoma, and Kitchen 253.
This is Channel 253.